Close your eyes for a moment. Picture lacquered masks catching early sun, a dancer halted mid-gesture, fingers curved like a flowering bud, and a hush falling across a courtyard as a singer draws out the opening line of the Reamker. Why does that sound still make a room listen? And how did the same tale end up carved along the walls of Angkor? Today, we follow those echoes.
As we explore, I'll point out the cultural grammar beneath those gestures, the ways poetic form, ritual occasion, and community memory shape what gets said and what gets shown. The evidence shows us that the Reamker works on many levels: narrative, didactic, and social.
Let's start at the beginning, without pretending there's a single beginning. The Reamker travels into Khmer life from Indic sources, yes, but Khmer poets and performers remade it. Think of it less like a single script and more like a family of versions that borrow and argue with each other.
Right, and that's crucial. Court manuscripts preserved long poetic forms in Khmer meters, while village reciters and shadow puppeteers kept shorter, performative versions alive. Institutions like the Royal University of Fine Arts and organizations such as Cambodian Living Arts have documented both kinds, showing how palace and village shaped the epic differently.
Exactly! And the living side is what people often miss. I watched a performance in Battambang where the puppeteer extended a comic scene for 20 minutes because the children in the front row were laughing, and that stretch made the later lesson land much harder. Real audiences still change the story mid-night.
That anecdote shows the transmission loop. Performers react to an audience, and then those reactions circulate back as variations. From a cultural standpoint, those improvisations tell us what a community needs at a given time: humor, comfort, instruction.
Okay, quick storytelling pass. The Reamker centers on a noble prince, his loyal companion, an abducted queen, and adversaries who test virtue and duty. But the episodes, the forest exile, the bridge building, the great battles, are not just adventure. They encode models of correct behavior, gender roles, and community obligations.
And those lessons are embodied. Dance teachers will tell you a single hand position contains a sentence of meaning: grief, hope, reproach. Reading temple reliefs requires the same attentiveness. Look at the bas-reliefs in Angkor Wat's gallery. A handful of stone figures can narrate an entire episode through posture and gaze.
Right. When I stood before the Ramayana sequences at Angkor Wat, I was struck that carvers chose moments that mattered to their viewers: the moment of recognition, the moment of exile, the moment of victory. It felt like a script edited for memory rather than spectacle.
Listen closely. Those selections also tell us about cosmology and moral economy. The representation of kings, demons, and forest spirits encodes right conduct. That's where the layers matter: myth, performance, and material culture braided together.
Let's talk technique for a beat, because the how matters. Classical Khmer dance uses precise gestures, mudras, and a drum and gamelan timing that shapes meaning. Shadow puppetry reduces characters to silhouettes, but expands scenes through spoken commentary. The same tale, different grammar.
And those grammars carry local detail. Regional variants may prefer certain episodes or emphasize different moral points. The research tells us scholars like Ian Mabbitt and local researchers have mapped these variant practices. It's a mosaic, not a monolith.
You mentioned preservation earlier. People often assume museums are the only place that saves culture. I want to push back. Isn't that too narrow? Community teaching, festival stages, living troupes, those are the real engines, right?
No, I agree with your intuition, but let me nuance it. Museums and archives store materials and training recordings that can be invaluable. For example, conservation efforts that documented dance notations after the 1990s provided resources for revival. But those records become meaningful only when communities use them. The custodians, teachers in village halls, puppet masters on market nights, are the ones who animate the archive.
So museums are tools, not replacements. That makes sense. And it raises a practical question. How should outsiders who want to help or learn proceed without extracting or exoticizing?
Start local and accountable. Seek out performances run by community groups or organizations like Cambodian Living Arts. Ask how proceeds support artists. Read translations with introductions by Cambodian scholars. And when you take photos or recordings, ask permission and credit the performers. The layers matter. Context shifts everything.
Concrete resources then. If you want a visual primer, check my YouTube video, Reading the Reamker at Angkor. There's a short clip from 112 to 230 where I point to the Ramayana scene in the outer gallery. For reading, look for works that include Cambodian voices and translations. David Chandler's introductions to Cambodian history are helpful context, and essays by local performers often appear through university presses.
And for people who want to support transmission, consider donating to or volunteering with community-led programs that teach dance and puppetry to young people. Organizations that partner directly with artist teachers ensure money and expertise stay where they belong, in communities.
I want to circle back to performance detail for a moment, because hearing is believing. Picture a scene, the hero at the edge of a dark forest, the musicians slow to a heartbeat rhythm, and the dancer's palm opens like a sunrise. He moves forward, tiny steps, relentless. That close focus is how audiences are taught to feel moral tension, not just follow a plot.
The tradition teaches us that silence between beats is invitation. The community answers through movement and memory. That's where the Reamker becomes a communal act of interpretation. The scholarly insight reveals how those pauses structure attention.
Before we close, a quick profile to humanize the custodians. In Phnom Penh and provincial centers, you'll find teacher artists who juggle rehearsal, school classes, and small performances, many trained at the Royal University of Fine Arts, and now teaching in community centers. Their work is the thin thread holding studio practice, temple memory, and everyday life together.
And remember, when you read scholarship, prioritize sources that include Khmer language material or translations with commentary by Cambodian scholars. Local perspectives correct and enrich outsider views. That's foundational to responsible learning.
If you take one thing away today, let it be this. The Reamker is living, adaptable, communal, and embodied. It's preserved not because someone put it behind glass, but because people kept rehearsing, retelling, and carving what mattered to them.
If this episode inspired you, check the show notes for a short reading list, links to community projects, and Sam Nong's visual guide, including that encore clip at 112 to 230. Learn from custodians, credit performers, and when you can, support community-led transmission. The cultural significance is best appreciated when we listen to the people who live these forms.
Let's unlock the echoes of history together. Follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app, subscribe, and share this episode with someone curious about Khmer arts. Tag your reflections with #AncientEchoes, and if you post photos or clips, credit the performers and link to community programs we list in the notes.
That brings us to the end of this episode of Ancient Echoes. We hope these stories helped you see Cambodian history and culture in a deeper, more human way.
The echoes of the past live on in people's voices, memories, and everyday lives. Thank you for listening and for making space for these stories.
If this episode resonated with you, please follow Ancient Echoes on your favorite podcast app and share it with someone who might appreciate these conversations. Until next time, thank you for listening to Ancient Echoes.
In the quiet of night, I whispered my plea, holding her close, hoping for her decree. I called upon spirits, asked them to guide, to take her heart and lead her by my side. So I drew her near, traced her brow so fair, my sight this way. Sacred power, Swahi, mighty spirit awakened. By the master's right, let her heart be gently taken. Let her follow me now by vow and by sign. I hear these words, oh teacher, witness this plea. Oh, my sacred power, Swahi.